Hi dear friends and subscribers, welcome to the Cricket Happening show with your host Ram. I know I have been a bit irregular with this 2020 World Cup. As I said, my office schedule is not really permitting me, but I'm doing whatever I can. I'm sorry dear fans, friends and subscribers. I would have really loved to give this 2020 World Cup reports in a very good way, but unfortunately due to time being a problem, I'm only able to do I'm not able to do full justice. I'm able to do certain justice to it. Anyway, I know all my dear subscribers and friends, you have been very dear to me, you have been supporting me all the way through, and I'm sure you're going to do the same. Well, so just moving along here. So we had two matches today, and well, rain was the one which came in. One was a match between we were all looking forward to, but it had absolutely the match was of no consequence because Zimbabwe have already packed their bags because I mean it is a foregone conclusion now that South Africa and Sri Lanka would be the ones who would be into the Super 8s, and so it was an inconsequential game. But yeah, there was one significance about this match. It was probably after a long time, or probably it's the first time, I wouldn't know. But South Africa and Sri Lanka were clashing in a 2020 after a long time, probably. So one would have really loved to watch it, and I'm sure the Sri Lankan public would be loving it. And I thought this was a very important game. But as I said, no consequence. But at least the teams could have made some experiments and would have seen something going. But unfortunately, rain was the one which came and prevented the 20 overs, and it became, instead of a 2020, it was instead of T20, it became T7 because it was a 7-over game, and finally South Africa emerged victors. We'll talk about that. And there was rain again following as far as this particular match was concerned. This was Australia and West Indies. Well, the match was actually, even though West Indies made a very good score of 191, which is the fifth highest score in 2020 cricket. I mean, the fifth highest where the teams have chased it. But Australia were absolutely up to the task, no doubt about it. But you never know, there could have been a twist in the tail, or the match would have been definitely interesting. We'll talk about that. So, but then it was decided on the Duckworth-Lewis method for the first time in this T20 World Cup, and the match was awarded to Australia. Well, so first let's go into the Sri Lanka-South Africa match, which was instead of a T20, it turned to be a T7. So South Africa were the ones who batted first, and out the 7 overs, they made 78 for 7 at a run rate of 11.14 runs per over. The chief contributor there was A.B. de Villiers. He was in punishing mood, and why not? He made 30 of just 13 balls with 1 4 and 2 sixes, and then it was Richard Levy. Let me tell you, I have to talk about this. Richard Levy was caught brilliantly by Munawira. I thought that was the catch of the competition because Munawira had to dive forward, and before the ball touched the ground, he had actually clasped the catch, and that would really do lots of confidence to this youngster Dilshan Munawira, who is into the team as an aggressive batsman. And well, he took a wonderful catch to see the back of Richard Levy. As you know, Richard Levy, if he could even stay for that 7 overs, probably the South African score would have gone excess of 100 because he's such a dangerous player. So it would have been very good for Sri Lanka to actually see the back of Richard Levy, who caught Munawira bowled Kuleshekara for 4. That was the first wicket. Amla played a sweet little knock, 16 of 9 balls, 3 fours. Faf du Plessis 13 of 11 balls with no 4. But as I said, A.B. de Villiers was the one who took the score to 78 with his I mean, in 7 overs, you don't know, you have to just throw your bats, and that was what A.B. de Villiers did. Looney was not out on 12. And looking at the bowling field, 78 for 4 for Sri Lanka, for South Africa after batting first. And Kuleshekara 1 over went for 9 runs. Malinga 2 overs was crashed for 27 runs with just 1 wicket to his name. Rangana had a 2 overs for 21. There was no Ajanta Mendes today. And 1 over for 8 runs for Angelo Matthews. Thisara Pereira 1 over no maiden, 1 for 12. As far as Sri Lanka were concerned, Sri Lanka had a very disastrous start. In fact, they lost both the openers. But first was the one which was a real shame, because in the 4th ball of the Sri Lankan innings, Dilshan and Jayawardene had a serious misunderstanding, and A.B. de Villiers, not only as a keeper, went there, flung himself, and he got Dilshan run out. That was a real indecision on the part of both the batsmen, and both of the, I mean, it was a very, very serious misunderstanding, and Dilshan was the first to go. It was very essential that Dilshan had to stay, and Dilshan departed, run out for a duck. Mahela Jayawardene, probably feeling that he was also a part of this particular happening that happened with Dilshan being run out. Jayawardene was also gone, caught Bahadin bowled Steen for 4, and Sri Lanka were 8 for 2. After that, the only thing that the Sri Lankan batting took today, they actually didn't have Dilshan Munawira, that is Munawira top of the order. In fact, normally opens the innings, but today they decided to send him one drop. Well, he contributed only 13 runs of 14 balls with 1 for, being a victim of Alfie Morkel. And then Sangakkara and all, everyone had to throw their bats. Sangakkara was out for 13, and there was absolutely no fight as Tisra Pereira came in, and if he could have done something, then probably the score of 78 could have been reached. But Tisra Pereira also succumbed, caught Dumini bowled Steen for 1, and in the end it was too much for Jivanta Mendes and Lairu Thirumaneni to do, with the Sri Lanka, the South African bowling looking very sharp. So 46 for 5, Sri Lanka finished within 7 overs, losing this match by 32 runs. And well, as you know, it's an inconsequential match, but well, for the records it would go. And as far as the bowling was concerned, Morne Morkel 2 overs, no maiden, none for 9. Dale Steyn was simply superb, 2 overs for 10 runs and 2 wickets. 1 over for 9 runs for Johan Botha. Callis bowled 1 over 1 for 9, and Albie Morkel bowled 1 over for 8 runs. And A.B. de Villiers of South Africa was named man of the match. So that is as far as this match is concerned. Now, so the next match that we are talking about is the match between Australia and West Indies. So let's look at that. So Australia West Indies, it was West Indies who batted first, and West Indies racked up 194. This was their first match in this T20 World Cup for Australia and West Indies, and West Indies racked up 191 for 8 of 20 overs batting first. And what was good to see was they definitely not Dwayne Smith pretty early on in the game. In fact, Australian bowlers were definitely on the money for the first 3 overs, I would say, because Mitchell Starc was bowling well. Patrick Cummins bowled a maiden over to Johnson Charles. That was, after Dwayne Smith was disturbed. Dwayne Smith was the first wicket to go, bowled by Mitchell Starc for 2. And after Johnson Charles had really struggled against Patrick Cummins, and he played out a maiden over to Patrick Cummins. But after 3 overs, it was Chris Gayle who started hitting the ball. Well, as you know, Chris Gayle is Chris Gayle nowadays doesn't attack right from the beginning. He just has a look at the wicket and then he starts. This was his particular strategy when he did it in the IPL 2012, and that was the precise strategy that Gayle adopted. And after that, he started sending 6s and 4s at will there. He really thrashed the bowlers. Watson was sent for 6s and 4s. Daniel Christian was sent over the wickets. Brad Hogg Maxwell was not spared too. Maxwell was given a very stern reception by Chris Gayle, smashing him for 17 runs of just 1 over, and Glenn Maxwell never bowled after that. So Gayle's contribution was 54 of 33 balls with 5 4s and 4 6s. The other substantial contributor coming in from Marlon Samuels, playing in his 2020 World Cup. And what an innings for Marlon Samuels. He also really thrashed the bowling, and some of those 6s that he hit was absolutely stupendous. He hit Shane Watson. He put Christian onto the roof of the stadium, and in fact, Marlon Samuels contributed a very hard-hitting 50 of 32 balls, 3 4s and 4 6. This was the one which really took this West Indies score to 191. 27 coming from I thought it was Darren Bravo, made 27 of 21 balls with 1 4 and 1 6. Kieron Pollard disappointed. He was a victim. He hit one very a stunning shot for a boundary, but he was gone for 10. Darren Sammy was out for 12, and the West Indies finished off with 191 for 8 of their 20 overs. Shane Watson 4 overs 2 for 29, 4 overs no maiden 3 for 35. Mitchell Starc bowled superbly. Cummins 4 overs 1 for 41. Christian 3 overs 1 for 29, 4 overs no maiden 1 for 30. And Glenn Maxwell, as I said, 1 over none for 17, never bowled in that innings after Chris Gayle gave him a pasting. And then Australia started off like a train. In fact, Watson started clubbing 6s. In fact, he went after Rampal, and Rampal, in the first over that he bowled, Shane Watson went after him like anything and put him for 22 runs in a single over. And as far as David Warner was concerned, David Warner also equaled the task. He also started hitting fours and sixes. Of the bowling of Ravi Rampal, as I said, was really thrashed, and they went after Marlon Samuels too, who was hit for 22 runs off a single over. And it was David Warner who was the only wicket gone. He was gone. Caught Ramadhin bowled Edwards for 28 of 14 balls, 3 fours and 2 sixes. That was a good challenge for Australia, because 191 was a real challenging target. David Warner was the only wicket to go, out for 10, and after that Shane Watson decided to really club the bowlers, and he finished at an unbeaten 41 of 24 balls with 2 fours and 3 sixes. He got the man of the match award in this rain hit match. Michael Hussey was not out on 28 of 19 balls, 3 fours. The match was very interesting, even though one could very safely say that they were going at a clip of 10.9. If probably some wickets would have fallen, probably the pressure would have been building on Australia. But well, it could have definitely, according to me, developed into a very good match. Even though 91 runs in the next 10 overs, it is not so easy in 2020 cricket. If wickets fall, then the pressure could really build. But one was hoping that we could have got a good game, but unfortunately rain came and played spoil sport. And I'm also wondering that, if you see, there are a lot of matches now, it is being hit by rain. Now, was this the right time to hold the T20 World Cup in Sri Lanka? Because rain is something which is hitting a lot of matches now, as you know. And David Warner was out for 28, Watson 41, so Michael Hussey was not out on 28. And the bowling figures, so 100 for 1, as it was decided by the Duckworth-Lewis method, and Australia were awarded the match by 17 runs by the Duckworth-Lewis method. So Australia are absolutely certain that they will go, because they have already beaten Ireland. Now let's look at this particular bowling figures. Edwards 2 overs 1 for 16. Rampal crashed away for 23 runs of 1.1 overs. Sunil Narine 2 overs for 16. Sammy 2 overs for 15. Marlon Samuels was smashed for 22 runs of a single over, 1 over 8 runs for Bravos. Shane Watson of Australia got the man of the match award. So as far as this group is concerned, now West Indies have to win against Ireland if they have to proceed to the Super 8s. So Australia are not under pressure, West Indies are definitely under pressure. But I thought we had a good game of cricket. Tomorrow there are 2 games coming up. Again, it is inconsequential, India and England, because India and England are already through in the group, because Afghanistan have not done well. So India and England would be playing that match, but it would be really watched and viewed, and people would be eagerly looking forward to that encounter. And there is another match just before that, and that is between Pakistan and New Zealand, and that could also be a very interesting game, considering the fact that New Zealand put up a good show with Brendan McCullum leading the way with the bat in the previous match. So that would also be interesting. Well, on this note, dear fans, friends and subscribers, your host Ram is ending the cricket show, but again mentioning that tomorrow I'll be back with a match report on both these matches in my Cricket Happening show. Until then, it's your host Ram saying goodbye for today. Good night.